Okay, so here's where we're at. I have Kolsch in the secondary fermenters, and now I'm getting ready to actually mill the grain for the pumpkin ale. Unfortunately, though, I have to be really careful when I do this because there's the grain thief, and there's nothing she likes more than to get her head into the grain. So it's a challenge. Anyway, I'm just gonna get this done. I'm gonna get it milled, and it's gonna go in the house and sit there until tomorrow morning early. I already have water in the hot liquor tank, so kind of ready to go. Tomorrow will be a little bit, see, she's over here right now. It's be a little different twist on the pumpkin, and I'll fill you in on that in a few minutes, which will be tomorrow at this point. All right, we are almost ready to mash in. I'm at 166 and I have to get to 168. And as soon as I mash in, then we'll talk a little bit about this formula and what's in it and kind of what you can expect. I'm doing a little twist on it this time that I haven't done before, and we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, time to mash. All right, let's add 6 1/4 gallons of water at 168 degrees. All right, smash in. Man, this is more fun than anyone should be allowed to have. It never ceases to amaze me at how much grain there is for a 10-gallon batch after you've milled it. Before you milled it, it doesn't look like that much, but boy, oh boy. Yeah, you know the drill here. It's slowly pouring the grain in. Keep stirring it. Don't get dough balls. Don't push your grain down into the false bottom. So you have to get a stuck sparge and have all kinds of great problems after that. Listen, I've been there. It is not fun. All right. Anyway, we'll be back in a minute when I'm done with this, and we'll talk about the formula. All right, I'm mashing in right now. It's done. It's in the mash tun, and it's a little bit higher in temperature than I would have expected. I'm supposed to be at 152. I'm at about 155. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that it's a little warmer in here than usual, and so the equipment was probably a little bit warmer than it ordinarily is when I'm brewing here. So, you know, I don't think that's going to be an issue, but let's talk about the grain bill real quick. It's 14 pounds of 2-row. It's 4 pounds of caramel crystal 10, and in this case, I couldn't get caramel crystal 10, so I'm using Munich 10, and I know it's going to be a little bit different. It doesn't make up that big a part of the grain bill that I think it's going to be overwhelmingly different. But that it's 4 pounds of that. It's a pound of caramel crystal 80 and 1 pound of caramel crystal 60. And then of course you're gonna mash in with 6 1/4 gallons of water at 168 degrees. And then you let it sit for an hour, and then we're gonna come back later and we're gonna sparge it. And once we're done sparging, then we're gonna go on to the boil, and we're gonna have to, we'll sparge with 8 gallons of water, and then we'll go ahead and start our boil. And there's only one set of hops in this, and that's cluster hops. And since I'm doing a 10-gallon batch, and keep that in mind, if you want to cut this in half and do a 5-gallon, I'm going to put in 2 ounces of cluster hops. And I just use US-05 yeast at the end of this. Now, where's the twist? Okay, so the twist compared to the other times is that I'm gonna put in non-fermentable sugar at towards the end of the termination of the boil. And I'm hoping, everybody loves a pumpkin beer anyway, but I'm hoping it gives it just a hint of sweetness at the end. So instead of being like pumpkin spice, it's more like pumpkin pie. I don't know if that'll be the case. I don't think anyone's going to object to having a little bit of a sweet back end on it. And it's not going to be strong like chocolate stout has a definite sweetness to the back end, because that's 1 pound of the lactose sugar per 5 gallons. This is only going to be 1 for 10 gallons, so it should be a little more subtle. So that's the twist on this for this brew day, and then we'll see how it goes when we get done with it. When it's done fermenting, I'll come out here and I'll try it, and I'll let you guys know whether it was worth doing or whether there's no difference, or however it turned out. So that's it. We got to let this thing sit for an hour and come back, start the sparge. And here's the lactose sugar we're going to put in, and the pumpkin pie spice, and that'll be just before we terminate the boil. I would say like with a minute left, I'll go ahead and put that in, and we'll be good. But next we're on to sparging. Okay, we're just doing the first runnings now to make sure we have a clean grain bed and that we don't have excessive grain coming down. Actually, it's really, really clear, which is good news. I mean, it means I have to do this for an extended period. So we need to turn it on a little bit more. So I'll go ahead and pour this over the grain bed and get the sparge attachment hooked up. We'll get the water going and go from there. Okay, so we're sparging right now with 168 degree water and just trying to match the flow out to the flow in. This is one of those steps where you don't really want to walk away until you've got it really dialed in, and even then I wouldn't recommend walking away for an awful long time. But anyway, we'll be back when it's time to start the boil. Sparging is absolutely the most boring part of this. And unless you got a helper, she's thinking about how she can get into some mischief at this point. She's usually pretty good. We always say she's good about 80% of the time. 50% of that is at night when she's asleep. And that leaves her 30% during the day, and that might be a stretch, 30%, but she's pretty good. She's a pretty good girl. Yep, hard to get her in there. Yeah, she's a pretty good girl. Anyway, back in a bit. All right, the boil's starting. 2 ounces of cluster hops go in. And as always, this is a step where you never, ever want to turn your back, because you've always got to break that surface tension or you're going to have a boil over. So I'll babysit this, and we'll be back in a little while. All right, 20 minutes left in the boil. I have put the chiller in. I know a lot of people will wait until the last 10 minutes. I usually play it a little safer and put it in there with 20 minutes left to go. I don't think it really makes a difference. It's a habit I've gotten into. So next step will be to put in the non-fermentable sugar and the pumpkin spice, and that's coming up in about 16, 17 minutes. So I'll be right back. Okay, there's only a couple minutes left in the boil, so I'm gonna put in the sugar, the non-fermentable sugar, and find a place to put it in where it's not interfering with the chiller. This is always kind of a mess when you're using a plastic bag over something that's steaming. And I did, by the way, I did sterilize the bag, the sugar bag, and the scissors. Better safe than sorry. Even though technically there's still a boil going on, but yeah, you know. Okay, that seems pretty good. It's not a lot of sugar for this batch when you figure that the chocolate stout has a whole pound of sugar in it for a 5-gallon batch. Okay, all righty. Let's get on to the pumpkin spice. 5 teaspoons. It's a little tricky with the one-hand deal. Oh boy. There's one. I think I'm just gonna sprinkle it in, and then I'll come back with the spoon. There's 2. that's strong. 4. That one was a little bit more than a teaspoon, but that's okay. I'll cut down on this one here. There we go. Okay, that's 5. I'm just gonna stir it in real quick. I'm gonna terminate my boil now. We'll give it one more good stir. Man, it smells fantastic. I'm gonna be very curious to see what the sweetness is like on the back end of this. It should be fantastic. I'm gonna get a gravity reading here. Okay, well, I'll be back. Be back when it's time to chill. Well, I kind of lied. This is it is chilling down right now, and it's down to, gosh, very hard to read there. About 110, 111 degrees, but it's dropping pretty quick, and I'll show you why. And by the way, I put these paper towels around here just in case I get a leak, that it doesn't come back into the pot. I've never had that happen. But anyway, here's the scoop, and it's real wet. I won't be able to. I'm using pool water to run through the chiller, and I'm not sure if I'm going to see this or not. The air temperature is 69 right now. The pool temperature is 50. So I have 59 degree water going through. Comes up this hose. Both of these are heat hoses too. They're heat resistant hoses. One comes in, one discharges, and it discharges right past the Eva and into the pool back there. So I'm not wasting water. I'm basically just recycling it. Warmer, which I'm sure Eva would love that because she loves to get in the pool, but the pool temperature is just not warm enough yet at 59 degrees. But today it's supposed to hit 80 something, 85 I think, so that should help get it up. And once it gets to 70, she's gonna be good. All right, so all that's left now is to get this thing chilled down, and then I'll go ahead and dump into the carboys and aerate the wort, drop the yeast in, which is USO5, which I don't think I've ever showed this before, but I keep all my brewing stuff in here, my hops and my yeast. And of course, that's the beer. Gotta have the beer in there. So anyway, back in a little. Always sanitize your packages. I said sterilize a minute ago. Big mistake. No, I don't sterilize anything except the aeration stone. Everything else is sanitized. So that's it. Just got to do that one. Then it's all done. Then we'll talk a little bit about the gravities. Okay, so everything's done. All that's left is really the cleanup of the brew kettle, which never is very exciting. As far as the pre-boil gravity and the post-boil gravity went, the pre-boil gravity was supposed to be a 1.048, and I clocked in at a 1.045. As far as what happened after the boil, the post-boil, I took 2 readings. It was supposed to hit 1.055, and it did. And the reason I took 2 is I wasn't sure whether Beersmith was calculating that unfermentable sugar into the final gravity reading. And I did some looking online, and I saw that it would change my gravity, adding it by 0.003. So I got the 0.055. Then I took the gravity reading after I added the fermentable sugar, and it was 1.058. So whoever came up with the calculations was right. I got to go look at the program and see whether that was calculated in to begin with or not. I don't know. But anyway, it's done. I'll come back after I have it in the bottle for a couple weeks. So it'd probably be about a month from now, maybe a little longer. And we'll check it out and see if it turned out more like pumpkin pie as opposed to just a pumpkin spice beer. And that's kind of all I have. I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time. This has been a Matty Boy presentation. Say bye-bye, Matty. Bye-bye.